Today's episode is sponsored by our good friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, located in Melbourne, Florida. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Along with their friends at Docking Bay 94, located in Boca Raton, Florida. Check us out on comicsandgames.com. And lastly, Ian's Display Accessories, the best figure stands for iconic Kenner Star Wars, Hasbro G.I. Joe, as well as modern toys like Star Wars Black Series and G.I. Joe Classified, shipping nationwide. Today is actually a special treat that we're featuring on the channel. We're going to look at the studio series of Jazz from Transformers the movie. That's right. So during all of this, Hasbro has been giving us the War for Cybertron Netflix special and the figures that are associated with that show. But also they're sneaking this little limited run of the figures and toys from the icon that is Transformers the movie. Now, I'm just going to be honest. Transformers the movie is a major milestone. If you're above 40 years old, you know how important this movie is behind Star Wars. Ironically, it was the first time many of us dealt with death on something that you love, as we saw a whole bunch of G1 characters annihilated within 20 minutes of the movie. And of course, that had an effect on, parents were writing letters to Hasbro, and it changed the outcome of G.I. Joe, the movie. But at the time, it was a major money loser, ironically, and not what it is regarded as now, and that is a pure masterpiece. Well, in honor of that monumental movie, and in the midst of all of this Transformers War for Cybertron, Hasbro has snuck out and released a few iconic characters from that movie. And Jazz here is the one I've always targeted. Number one, I'm a car nut. If you see my Instagram, between an Audi and a BMW, I love Euro German cars. So his Porsche mode is what did it for me, because it's a very good representation of that classic iconic car. The Porsche 935. I could go on about this, but to keep it simple, the 935 was actually a race rally version of the iconic 911. Now you gotta understand, around this time in the 70s and early 80s, Audi was dominating with its quattro four-wheel drive and something called a turbocharger. Now, if anyone has driven an old turbocharged car, it's literally the closest thing to going into warp speed. A normal driver will have no idea when the turbo will kick in, known as turbo lag. Okay, I'm getting a little too excited here. Now, what was cool is how the Japanese toy company Diaclone was able to offer toy representation of these actual vehicles. Now, screw the licensing. In America, now building model cars was a little bit more popular than it is today. So to offer a die-cast version of an actual car with rubber wheels, that was the home run that helped Transformers gain credibility and popularity. On the Sunbow cartoon, Jazz was voiced by an actual jazz musician, Scatman Crothers, and in the first season, he served more as a lieutenant second in command to Optimus Prime. Alright, just before we jump on to looking at this action figure, it's also important to note that Jazz was on board the Ark in both the cartoon and the comic, so that's kind of cool to see. Okay, now this figure is based off of the icon that I mentioned, Transformers the movie, where Jazz and Cliffjumper were on Moon Base 1. Now, I guess Cybertron had some moons orbiting it, so Jazz and Cliffjumper were positioned on board that moon base as Unicron was coming to devour the planet. For those of us that don't follow modern Transformers regularly, this is a kind of a difference between the War from Cybertron boxes, and it's kind of going to like the Combiner War boxes. And again, there's what caught my eye, the Porsche 935. I think that's, well done. And again, I think this is the best version of Jazz that's ever been. So that is why I really targeted this figure and wanted it in my collection. All right, so let's crack open the box here, and it has a nice, cool little display that I will show that is actually the backdrop of Moonbase 1. The other thing about Jazz is, we saw all these iconic characters that we grow up with and love just get destroyed, but Jazz never died. He actually makes an appearance in season 3, winning a race. Yeah, I think they gave him another name, but yeah, Jazz did not die, so he's one of the few that survived that mass extinction. So here we have everything all out, and this is the really cool backdrop that I mentioned in the beginning, and I think this is cool to have as a display piece, like that Moonbase 1. And again, I sucked at transforming. I did the best I could, but this is his 935. I'll give it another try, but guys, I don't know. For the life of me, I suck at transforming modern Transformers. And, I got an A in physics. I swear to God, I'm not an idiot, but I just cannot transform these. And it looks really good. It looks like a great representation of that iconic vehicle. And maybe modern Transformer guys, they understand the instructions a little bit better, but these like little things that I just don't have patience for. And then there comes to a point where I'm just frustrated and I get mad and I have a bad temper. So it's just like, I'm just doing this and cursing at myself. Anyway, the transformation is, again, it just takes some time to get used to, and I need to like be a little bit more patient with these things. I think it's like I said, it's the best version of G1 Jazz that I have seen to date, and topping the original G1 toy figure, that itself is a feat. And that's why I've been targeting characters that are improvement from the iconic G1 toys. I prefer getting the G1, whether it be reissues or have you. Those I'm closest to, and I haven't been collecting modern Transformers until recently. And this is comparing him to all of the War for Cybertron figures, and he fits in perfect with these guys. I'm actually really impressed. Wheeljack and Jazz, they're both rally cars from the 80s, and they're about the same size, which was kind of what was like in the cartoon series as well. And then, just a little bit shorter than Optimus Prime. I think it's well done. That's my brief review for this Studio Series 86 of Jazz. I definitely recommend, if you're able to find it, pick it up. It is, whether it be car mode or robot mode, it's definitely amazing. Anyway, that's the recap for this episode. This is Shibu RU signing off.
Where'd that come from? Who cares? I'm more worried about where it's going.